Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to take a look, we're going to rank and talk about free-to-play units and the best free-to-play units for SBR and ESBR. Now some disclaimers, I've organized them into S tier, A tier and B tier and some honorable mentions. This does not include a comprehensive list of all the units that are good for ESBR and SBR. There are plenty of them, and the three main criteria I focused on was how good was the unit in the hardest version of a stage they can fight. So for example, Pure Saiyan's ESBR, not SBR. How good are they in terms of difficulty to obtain? And then of course also just in terms of diversity. What are they bringing? How many categories can they affect for you? Another disclaimer, I will not be including World Tournament units in this. I do not find World Tournament units to be fully free to play, as there's still an RNG chance. So units like Demon King Piccolo are excluded, for example, although they are very, very good. But a new player today would have a harder time to get Demon King Piccolo than some fully summonable units, and you cannot deny that. And so for me, I've excluded World Tournament units. So S tier, we're going to start with Great Saiyaman 1 and 2. Awesome unit. They seal on their 12 key, they boost allies attack on their 18 key, they're a big time key support and defense support, and they debuff the enemy. They're just exceptional. They are a great SBR ESBR unit because they bring a lot of utility to the table, they make your team run well. Their only issue is that they are limited, but I found that their performance was way too good, not to mention that they are a friend summon unit, which makes them pretty easy to get, and their EZA itself is pretty easy to do as well. So they're a very non-taxing unit to kind of get for a new player. They take a bit of time, but they're pretty easy. Same with Goku here. Goku's kind of a raw numbers unit. He's a support unit, which is great, but he's a raw numbers unit. He'll do some big damage, he'll have good defense, he's got an active skill that does good damage. He's on a decent amount of categories, a little bit more than the Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, but this isn't the most category loaded Goku we've ever seen. But his ease of obtaining is so good. You just have to do the Greatest Warrior missions, which you'll see in the top right hand corner. It's my most popular video ever, but you just need to do those missions and you get a fully rainbowed Goku very easily. He's very good, super strong. You could put him on any team for any of his missions. Next is Prime Metal Frieza, and this guy was a bit of a debate. The reason I chose Prime Metal Frieza is because he's on a lot of categories, okay? He's on a decent amount of categories. He debuffs the enemy quite a lot, which is very good, but he's also very flexible. His link set's actually pretty decent. He links really well with other Frieza or Cooler based units, and because he has big bad bosses, he's actually aged really, really well comparatively to some of the other Prime Battle units. This guy is still an incredible damage dealer to this day on any team that you can place him on. The issue with him is just his difficulty to get, but I think he's still very worth it, and he's probably one of the Prime Battles that's most worth it. If I'm honest, he's worth that grind. He still feels worth it today. Yes, his defense maybe in the super hardest events sometimes doesn't hold up, but if you have him in the right conditions, even if you just use him as a floater, this guy just does the business. I find him to be a very good unit. I think he's great. I think he's definitely worthy of being in the top tier of free-to-play units for SBR and ESBR, and he's just so good. Pan, great unit, very limited in categories, but her toolset is perfect for ESBR and SBR. She's only on a couple categories, but she'll be in the team for every stage that those categories can take on. She heals huge, she stuns, and she has great damage reduction, plus her active skill beefs up pretty much everyone else that's alongside her. It is insane. She is a top tier unit. She'll be on every team. You could put Pan in any team she is on the category of, and she will do a fantastic job in those SBR and ESBR at this time. She will be fantastic, really, really good, do a lot of great work, awesome stuff. Great unit, love her to bits. Easy to get as well, or semi-easy. You need to do the Pan growth event and you need to get a bit of luck there, but with the missions and everything now, she's pretty straightforward, along with her EZA also being quite straightforward. Then we get to Master Roshi, definitely possibly one of the best free-to-play LRs currently in the game, if not the best free-to-play LR in the game still. The reason I say this is because he has evasion. He does a lot in terms of passive. He's got a revive skill, support, evasion, he has an active skill, he seals. He's really good. He's super duper strong. He seals, he can stun. He's very strong. He's on a lot of categories actually, surprisingly, and he's probably the easiest unit on this list to get. A fully event based LR. His EZA is fully made up of free to play event units as well. He's incredibly strong. He's very good, and I think he's probably the best LR, if not him or Goku. They're just so strong and so easy to get. Android 17 and 18, they're basically just the inverse of Great Saiyan 1 and 2, but they're so strong. Their link set again kind of benefits them, similar to how Frieza, Prime Battle Frieza, is better than the tech Super Saiyan Goku, simply just off the basis that these guys actually link well with other androids units, and they can debuff very intensively. They debuff so much and they can raise their defense so much, and there's a lot of other androids that mesh well with them, and that kind of trading of support that they can do. These guys before supering can have over 100k defense, which is madness. Like, these guys are just so good. Very, very strong. Limited but super duper strong units. I think all of these are top tier units. They're relatively easy for players to get. The only thing is Android 17 and 18 are probably the most difficult, but they are so strong, it is scary. The next tier of units are either a little bit more limited or maybe not as openly strong, but they're still incredibly good units for ESBR and SBR. Some of them could be in this top tier. Units like Int Goku, I think in the right situation, under the right platform, honestly is deserving of being a top tier unit. And I think, yeah, like, it's interchangeable. This is just to highlight units in terms of preference and order of focus, rather more than to say one is outright better than the other. This is more to say, hey, you should probably focus on, S tier before you do A tier, but that's really about it. But all these units are also exceptionally good, really, really strong units, and a lot of them are easy to get. In fact, this entire tier is pretty easy to get, which is why I've put them all here as well. Krillin, Prime Battle unit, very good in the stages he's in. A limited character for sure, not on a lot of categories, but an AoE medium chance stun is just very powerful. It's something you can't really like move behind, let alone the fact that he's probably going to get an easy A at some point. But Krillin has a AoE medium chance stun, so this guy literally could stun an entire rotation. He is crazy, and it's that fact simply that pushes him into this tier, because his leader skill as well is 150% Earthling's lead, and so for some stages you can literally just use Krillin as a lead, and is very, very strong. So Krillin, super duper strong unit. Super Saiyan Goku, Yardrat Goku, on quite a few categories, not as many as we've seen other Gokus be on, very similar to the physical Goku, but a great unit. He stuns, which is awesome in ESBR and SBR. He has a high chance to counter as well in the second and third slot with big time damage reduction, and he's got evasion in the first slot as well. Honestly, he's a second or third slot unit. The only thing with Goku is just that his damage is a little bit situational, because you need to kind of get counters, you need to fire off multiple super attacks. But Goku as a unit is great. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, defensive unit, free-to-play unit-wise, in the game right now for global. He is insanely strong defensively. He is an absolute wall, and I think it's very difficult to like underestimate or oversell that. He is so strong defensively, and with the ability to stun, he's just super helpful for SBR and ESBR. So now the next two is just an honorable shout out to the Guinea Force first off before I go through them. The Guinea Force are super strong as a team anyway and are worthy of being in a high tier, but I chose these two to represent them because both of them are very strong without the Ginyu Force. So Captain Ginyu, 50% damage reduction when facing 2 or more enemies, 200% attack and defense when facing 1. Super strong unit, plus he also has Seal on his super attack effect, which makes him very strong. He's not on a lot of categories, but he's pretty much super strong on all of them. To give you an example, I completed Extreme Int ESPR with this guy before he even EZA'd. That's how strong this guy is. He wasn't even sealing back then, but I used him as a tank. This guy is super duper strong. He's very, very, very strong, and the Guinea Force requirement for him isn't that big. It disables guard, it gives him extra attack, but it's not that big an issue. Only issue with Ginyu that doesn't make him S tier is his limitation of categories, but as a unit, Ginyu is just incredibly powerful, and there's no fact around that, there's no need arguing with that. He's super strong. Same with Jace. Jace, limited in categories, but what he brings you as a unit is insane. So not only does he raise allies attack and defense on his super attack, which is super helpful and does beef up the rest of the rotation, but Jace will actually beef up the rest of the rotation with his passive. He gives them attack as well, which is great. He also foresees super attacks. Foreseeing super attacks is probably the most powerful ability in the game, if not one of them, alongside like permanent guard and things like that. It is an incredibly powerful ability, and it makes Jace a unit that's so usable on so many teams. Just because of the fact that he's going to show you where super attacks are, Jace is incredibly powerful. He's a very powerful unit. He's also a great support unit. He'll buff up the rest of your rotation. You can stick him in the second slot, and he's a super reliable unit. The only thing you're missing out on is obviously the Guinea Force defensive buff, but that's not really a big loss. Jace is still highly usable, very powerful, awesome unit. Android 18. So there's not too much to say about Android 18. She debuffs on her super attack. She is a very low conditional support. She can give all allies a bit of buffs, and she also obviously is a big buff for the androids category, but she just gets up to speed really quickly. She gets up to speed super quickly. She's got a great link set. She debuffs the enemy. The reason she's in this tier is because she's just not as strong as the Android 17-18 counterpart, but her and them together are a free-to-play rotation that can dominate literal ESBR androids, or like high level difficulty events. As a free player rotation, they are pretty much able to no item as a rotation. They are so strong together, very powerful. Great Saiyan is a unit I really like personally, and I think is awesome, and he is very similar to Android 18 in the fact that he meshes so well with Great Saiyan 1 and 2, the LR, that just by that association along with his own power level, he's very powerful. His only issue is that he can't, when he faces Pepe Girls or youth category units, he does flop a little bit, but category wise, he's on a decent range of categories, and when he's facing extreme enemies, he's an absolute monster. This guy, alongside Great Saiyan 1 and 2, is one of the most powerful free-to-play rotations in the game. It's a free-to-play rotation that can, no jokes, no item run certain stages, along with certain ESBRs and things like that. Like, they are very powerful. They are so powerful. Superclass ESBR, they are insanely strong. So all those units could be got from events, which makes them easy to get, as I mentioned before. The C tier, or the B tier I should say, of units are units that are maybe a little bit more limited or maybe more difficult to get, or the stages they're in are actually just really hard, and so even though they're exceptional units, that top tier content for them is more difficult than maybe the other units, and so you can't use them as much. Babidi and Deborah are an exceptional unit. They're fantastic. They're on 3 categories though. They are perfect for ESBR and SBR. They debuff, they seal, they stun, and they mesh perfectly with another free-to-play unit. They have like 5 links with the Boo and Babidi unit. Both of these units are awesome, great units. They even have great leader skills that you can use. However, big problem, they're on like 5 categories. Also, Babidi and Deborah are a battlefield currency unit, which immediately makes them hard for new players. And Boo and Babidi are a prime battle unit, very similar to Krillin, but they're on less categories, and their perfect linking partner is a battlefield currency unit. So yes, they are very good, and you could probably push them into the same bracket as Krillin, like I said, but I just felt like they're a little bit more wonky to utilize, although they're still great. Then we get Kale and Kalifla, or the Universe 6 unit. You could also probably throw Kaba in here, the Tech Kaba. Great units, but their stages are hard. Universal Survival Saga ESBR is incredibly difficult. Pure Saiyan ESBR is incredibly difficult. They can handle it, which is what makes them so impressive. But 1, you need to have them meshed with each other, and 2, when I say they can handle it, they're still not optimal picks on those teams. You might not replace other units with them, especially with the new Pure Saiyans units coming out, but they are super strong, they're super impressive, they're very powerful. They could easily be in the next tier, but their stages are just so difficult that it makes it difficult to push them up, just because of that fact. Like, they're very hard stages, so I can't say to you that they can handle that. Trunks, great unit, literally designed for ESBR and SBR. Only issue, link set, bit weak. He only links with 1 or 2 units really well. And secondly, another big problem with him, he brings no utility. So for a big stage like Future Saga ESBR, he's actually a hindrance because that stage relies on stunning. So even though he's an exceptional unit and does big numbers, some stages strategically just aren't good setup for him. And I love this unit, I love all Trunks units, but it is something you do have to acknowledge when you're evaluating the unit. Plus his grind is very difficult, so he's in this tier. Master Roshi and Tien, great unit, easy to get. You need to get them for Master Roshi. Their issue, they're not on that many categories, not nearly as many as the Master Roshi LR, which is a little bit confusing, but they bring sealing, they bring debuffing, they bring a lot to the table, but they also ramp up a little bit slowly. Using them in the Reps of Universe 7 ESBR was very difficult because of how slowly they ramp up, which is why I've placed them here. And then we get to the honorable mentions. So these units are either units that are super strong but are very limited, or are units that require other units to be good, or are just units for maybe stages that aren't as difficult and they don't have as wide diversity. Like, so for example, Kale and Kalifla can do pure Saiyan's ESBR. Fusion ESBR is not as hard, so it's kind of weighed down against Gotenks and Ghost. Android 13 is a great example of why he's in here. He's a fantastic unit, but he's very conditional. And Android 14 and 15 are the same. They're on 4 categories altogether. They're super powerful. You can foresee enemy super attacks once they're linked up with Android 13, and you can see it forever. But that only benefits 4 teams. Although it's super powerful in ability, it still requires to have an Android 13. Yes, you can have the AGL one, but overall the sense is that they just don't benefit enough teams. If they're on like 2 or 3 more categories, you could definitely see them push up into the top 3 kind of tiers that I have. 100%, no problem about it. Then if we take a look at a unit like Poutine, Poutine's great. She debuffs the enemy, she seals them, and she has the chance to stun. She's great even without crossover units, but one, she's not on a lot of categories. Her link set's very wonky on the categories she is on. She's great when you have her on a crossover based team, but as a free-to-play option to fill out teams, she's not necessarily the greatest unless you have those units. So if you have like Toa as a unit, you can run her with Poutine on all her teams, and then Poutine's a top tier unit. But if you don't have Toa, you can't really, so that's why she's here. Giru, again, very similar, not on a lot of categories, but his kit is really good, and I think he's an underrated unit. He seals, which is good. He has high evasion when there's a hybrid Saiyans unit on the team, which is super easy to fulfill for all of his teams. And generally speaking, he gives his buff to a lot of units. He's just very specific. Like, I use him for Dragon Ball Seekers based content, and he's fantastic for that, and that's it. Like, do you know what I mean? That's kind of it. So it is what it is. Like, he's a very good unit, but just limited. And then you get Goku. Goku is a great support. He does bring a lot to the table, but he's just better in long form events. He's just better in long form events. He's stronger in long form events. He's designed for long form events. You can use him in ESBR and SBR when linked up with other UI Gokus 100%, but there are probably better options for that kind of shorter format of content. But that's not to say he's bad. He's just not as good as other options. And then you can look at units like the Android 18, you can look at units like the Ghost Tanks and Ghost. Android 18 also kind of brings in tech Android 17. Both very good. Ghost Tanks and Ghost bring stun to a fusion team, but there's been some upgrades that kind of pushed them back, like the time limit support Ghost Tanks. And along with Android 17 and 18, they're just better in long form events, not so much in short term events. Second form Frieza and other units like that are still very, very good units, but like I said in the beginning, this isn't to say that other units besides these are not good. It's just to say that they maybe can't tackle the hardest content. And like I mentioned before, I'm not covering units that, World Tournament units, but I also didn't cover the SBR and ESBR drop units, because these units, you have to complete the events to get them. So how can I cover them as units when you may be looking at this video to see which ones you want to use? But that's pretty much it from me. Let me know your thoughts. I really want to hear what you guys think about the list. I want to hear what you guys think. Should I change where units are around? Is there other units you think we should have mentioned or put honorable mentions on? I just really like hearing your guys' thoughts on what you think. So let me know please in the comments below, or if this helped you, or if this helped you prioritize anything. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, that's going to be it from me, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, otherwise leave a comment and I'll reply back. But that's it from me. Bye.